Hey, Bomb Squad, if you're a comedian or a podcaster looking for an affordable website solution with a modern look, then we recommend Puck's Hub. With a Puck's Hub website, you can set up your new website in minutes with easy-to-use pre-built templates. Puck's Hub websites are customizable and can easily be integrated with other platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. The best part? Puck's Hub plans are only $5 per month. We use Puck's Hub for our website at the Art of Bombing podcast, and we think you should too. That's why we've partnered with Puck's Hub to offer listeners a free 60-day trial. Head over to puckshub.com to subscribe and use promo code AOBPOD at checkout for your 60-day free trial, and then pay only $5 per month after that. Take your career to the next level with your own Puck's Hub website today.
Dan Bublitz Comedy Productions.
Screw you, Grandma. That's what's coming up on the Art of Bombing, episode 269.
My friend Dan, he's got a podcast, 'cause all comics need a podcast, and nobody had a podcast called The Art of Bombing. So Dan went out and bought a tape deck. Who knows why he bought a tape deck? Now podcasts don't get played on tape decks, but Dan is from the 80s. So hey there, all you funny jerks, come talk to Dan about your work. Tell him all about your worst times. It's The Art of Bombing.
Welcome to a brand new episode of The Art of Bombing. It is me, your host, Dan Bublitz Jr., and with me, as always, is my co-host, co-producer, and co-host, Mr. Josh Shirley. How are you doing? Did you have a good weekend?
It's did.
Monday.
Yeah, I did. And this weekend, my son just started experimenting with sarcasm.
Oh, another comedian in the family.
Maybe he's 10, so it's hard for us to know exactly where he's going on anything, right? Like, just, okay, does he like doing, does he like singing? Does he like music? Does he like sports? And he's just kind of still not there, and that's okay because he's 10.
But you have discovered he likes sarcasm.
Yeah. So it was the first time he ever used it correctly because, so I go to him and his mom, like, were in there, and they were either working on a crafts project together, or he has these bandages that she's been putting on his fingers for warts or whatever, and she has to cut the bandage with a pair of scissors. So I go to tuck him in. It's like 9:00 at night. It's him. He's reading, and there's a pair of scissors on the bed, and I didn't know why it was there. Like, it makes sense now, but at the time I didn't know. And I'm like, dude, what's going on here with the scissors, dude? And he's like, I just thought that'd be really comfortable, And I thought, I could sleep tonight, roll over onto the scissors, and it would be really soft.
That's funny.
Yeah, I was like, oh, dude, you actually used it correctly. Like,
nailed it.
I didn't expect it.
That's good. That's great. That's amazing that he did that. Well, that's funny. That's a great story. Now that you're going to have another comedian in the family, so they should probably listen to this conversation that's coming up, because there was a lot of good information in this episode. Yeah, that I talked to our guest this week, Christine Tomlinson, fantastic comedian and producer out of Denver, Colorado. She has a new comedy festival that's coming out. I would like to say for you to go apply to it, but it's too late. The deadline's already passed, unfortunately. But maybe you already applied, so good for you. But it's the Winter Park Comedy Festival. So if you're in the Colorado area, that's going to be, I believe it's the first weekend of June. So you want to go check out a comedy festival in Winter Park, which is a fantastic area. Go do that. She also has another show coming up. She has I think it's a monthly show that she does there, but it's at Devil's Craft Kitchen, which is a fantastic venue in Winter Park, and it's a fantastic show. I did the show last month. I had such a great time. She runs a fantastic show. It was great. The crowd was hot. All the comedians on the show did very well. She did great as a host and producer, did both. host and producer, which I would say is very important because we talk about some of this stuff in this episode, but more importantly, check out the callback that'll be coming out on Thursday for this episode because we really go into hosting and producing shows and trying to do them simultaneously. So there's a lot there. A couple other things you can look forward to on the callbacks episode is that we talk a little bit about the secrets of crowd work. We talk about a vision board. Those are all things that'll be coming out on the callbacks episode. So make sure you're following the podcast wherever you listen to it. Follow us, do the things. Go over to buymeacoffee.com/AOB. Leave a little tip. Fire Josh. That's the new thing. You can pay to fire Josh. I'll read the message. Josh will be fired, then immediately hired back. So you can probably tell we're kind of wrapping up, and that's because this week we're not going to do. We're getting rid of the outros now. We're getting rid of the outros because we don't need them. Because we were doing outros so we could talk about the episodes, and now that we have a whole nother bonus podcast called Callbacks, Between Bombs Callbacks, probably don't need an outro because you're probably not listening to it anyway. So, all right, I think that's going to do it for all our mumbo jumbo for this intro. We need to get out of here. We got other things we got to do, so we're going to get wrapped up. Here's our conversation with Christine Tomlinson. Listen to it, enjoy it, and then tune in Thursday for 269 Callbacks. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
And now, it's time for the stand-up soundbite.
I'm Christine Tomlinson. I actually am a single mom of 3 teenage boys. Yeah, no, it's not as glamorous as it sounds. It's not. Really, the biggest downside of it is I get lonely at night. Basically, like they're too old to cuddle, you know, because they're old enough to get erections, and I'm too hot. so it gets lonely. They stay up later than I do, so I can't sneak anybody in and out. It's a problem. I do homeschool my boys, though. I homeschool them, and it's nothing political. I just found out during the pandemic that I don't have to sit through that fucking car line anymore. You know what I'm talking about? We wait 30 minutes just to get to the front of the line. You're behind that one bitch who gets out of her car to let her get out of the car, walks them all the way to the front. I have to get out of my car. My no bra, no pants wearing ass has to be like, keep it pushing, bitch. I don't care if he has a disability. Well, I have a Zoom meeting in 15 minutes. Gotta go. They're a trip, though. It's a lot of testosterone in that house. One of the first lessons I taught them, however, this new school year, I don't know if you guys watch the news, but there's that disease going around that accumulates on your dirty dishes. Yeah, if you leave them out for more than 24 hours, you can contract that disease where your dick falls off. You didn't see it on the news? I taught my boys about it. Guess what I haven't done in months, you guys? Seen my kids. Yeah, you have to teach them schoolwork. You can't just brainwash them into cleaning your house all day, it turns out. I found an open jar of peanut butter under my bed the other day. Thousands of ants all over my bedroom floor. Guess what it cost me to get rid of my ant problem? About the same price as a trip to Planned Parenthood. I did the math. My youngest one hit his face on the coffee table, broke his nose, all 4 of his teeth through his bottom lip. Guess what that emergency room trip cost me? Could have bought a Planned Parenthood with that one. Yeah. Expensive. They're expensive. They ask me all the time, they're like, Mom, who's your favorite? I'm like, your sister. Yeah, she was the cheapest.
It's the art of bombing.
So you have your weekly show. You have a weekly mic on Tuesdays, and then it's a monthly showcase, the same venue. And I think, was last night the showcase or the open mic? Showcase,
last night
that's
was
what I thought.
at the Tavern on 26th in Lakewood.
Yeah. How was that? How was the show last night?
It was good. We've been having a really good turnout lately. Like, we just have a lot of people that show up. They like having comedy in Lakewood, and it's free, so they are always there. And they know, like, there's a lot of them that come to the open mic, so they've seen the difference between a showcase and the open mic, so they're definitely choosing to go
Oh, yeah,
to the showcase. But the weekly open mics are still good. We do have a good crowd. There's a lot of regulars there that I love. But yeah, the show was great. There's a couple of newer comedians that have been coming week after week and just working their butt off. And I asked them to be on the show, and they were so, like, they were prepared and they tried really hard and they did really well, like better than I've seen them do. Like Jordan Etzel, she just blew me away. I was like, heck yeah, like you did it. Like this is how it's supposed to go. You work hard at the open mics, you have an opportunity, and you try your hardest. And it's like, it just made me happy and
awesome.
proud.
Yeah,
in a weird way. I didn't do it. She did all the work, but I was like, yay.
Well, yeah,
I'm so
but I
proud
think
of you.
it's so cool to see that. That's one of my favorite things when it comes to comedy is that, you know, especially like when you start in a scene and you've been there for a little while and then you see these other people start and then progress and get better. I always think that's great.
Yeah.
I love seeing comics who started after me and then they're like way ahead of me now. You know what I mean? Like they did all the work they needed to do and now they're like kicking ass everywhere.
Yeah, for sure.
Which
sure.
I think is always
That's a great attitude to have instead of being competitive. Like, why did they get picked and not me?
Well, I always look at it like this. I know why they got picked. They put the work in.
Right.
I'm like, I put a lot of work into things, but also I'm very lazy when it comes to other certain things, you know?
Yeah.
Like I don't keep up on social media as much as I could. And, you know, and I see other comics that are just like every day they're dedicated to putting, you know, 2 to 3 clips out a day, every day, day in and day out. I'm just like, that's not me. So more power to you.
I would do that. Like the social media side, I would do. I just hate compiling and doing the content part of it. I don't want to videotape me. If I had somebody who could just follow me around and videotape me and send me edited clips, that would be wonderful.
Wouldn't it? Wouldn't that be that would be
Or
I think
post it for me. I don't even want to get on social. You post it for me. That's really my goal.
So you want a social media team.
Yeah.
They just follow you around.
I have to arrive first. First, I want a professional driver. That's what I want first. That's how I know I made it. I never have to drive my stupid car ever again.
Yeah,
And
right?
then
Wouldn't that be
somebody that does all my videotaping and social media for me?
That would be amazing, especially the driver part. I would love to be in a situation where I can just have somebody drive me to my shows.
Yeah,
like, especially
I freaking hate it.
the
Go
long
grocery
drives.
shopping for me. Get my gas.
You're like everything.
Yeah, I know.
It's like,
personal
I
assistant.
just wanted somebody to do all my stuff for me.
Yeah, I'm like, how do I get there? What do I do? It starts with writing. I'm like, forget it.
Writing, performing. Like, can I just
write
have
every
somebody
day.
do my job? Can I just not exist? Can somebody just fill in these?
Exactly. That's my dream life. Just not living.
just being. Somebody else does all the stuff for me. Oh, that's amazing. That would be amazing. That would be a good time. But I do think about that when it comes to, like, you know, what people think as making it in comedy or whatever. And I definitely, for me, being able to have somebody just drive me to shows would be just shows. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Where I could just have, your job is to come. You can be my merch person and my driver.
Yeah.
I will pay you well.
Whatever I don't like.
And then I can sleep on the road on the way to the gig.
Heck yeah.
And it would be nice to have like a travel buddy because, you know,
Yeah.
a lot of the shows that you do, you end up going out on the road on your own and it's boring.
Yeah, it is really boring to drive by yourself. And I'm terrible at driving. Like a long distance, I will fall asleep. I could have gotten a full night's sleep, fully rested, just start driving. If it's over an hour, I'll start nodding off because I get it's boring. I hate it's ADHD probably. I'm just bored or I crash. Like I keep crashing because I'm bored. That's not
crashing, like sleeping or crash,
yes,
like
both.
physically crashing.
Physically,
like
falling
crash,
asleep and then
crashing. Yeah,
Just-
you definitely want to have that looked into. That might be that's a.
You might have
that's an
narcolepsy.
issue. Yeah. You said ADHD. I think you'd be narcolepsy. You're just falling asleep.
Just random places.
It's funny. I'm the opposite. Like if I'm driving, I'm fine, but if I'm the passenger, that's when I'm like, yeah, I'm out. I get sleepy as the
Useless.
passenger. But yeah, but I wonder, how often do you work the road? The only reason I ask this is because you're very busy locally producing.
Yeah.
And now you're doing shows on the weekly shows on the weekends. So like, do you even have time to go on the road?
No. So for this year, last year I had a goal of doing one road show. I think my goal was every quarter. I ended up doing it close to every month, at least a weekend every month. And I love doing that. But then, so I do a vision board and my goals for every year. And so this last year I was starting that comedy club down in Castle Rock and planning the festival. And so I didn't plan. I know that that's a lot of work and it's going to take up a lot of my times, and I don't have the time, like any extra capacity for travel. So starting in July, I'm going to hit the road again for sure after the festival is done. But no, I'm not doing any traveling at the beginning of this year. Loveland. This is as far as I come.
Hey, we love to have you up here, so we're excited for that. How's that been going with the new show, the weekly show? I mean, it's a comedy club. How long have you been doing now? Like a few weeks, a month? I don't know.
Yeah,
exactly.
So I started looking at venues at the last quarter of last year, and this place that I found is a breakfast place, and every time I went down there, it was closed. So I'm like looking in, like shining a flashlight in it at night, and I was like, oh, low ceilings, it's small and intimate and whatever. And I was like, I really like this venue. I was talking to him. Anyway, we just started January. Long story short, January is when we started. I started the venue. I got banners, and it's in its like baby phases because I have to make money to keep improving it.
No,
but
absolutely.
I have a backdrop, and the guy who owns the place does breakfast, and then he lets me turn it into a comedy club at night.
That's amazing. That's a really good plan for that, because you don't have to worry about your events conflicting with the venue's events. You know, like if you did it at a in a room of a brewery or any venue that had like a special room or whatever, they're going to try to rent it out for their events too. And then you end up getting that conflicting schedules sometimes.
Yeah. And sometimes when you have it at a bar or something, they're like, well, when we have music, this music is longer, people stay longer, we make more money. So it's always it's a harder sell. But yeah, and so what we're gonna do, I say we because the guy owns the place and he's the person that the royal we. He's not really doing it. He's just like, yes, you can do whatever you want. Yeah. But when it starts getting busy and it's more well known, then he said I can add nights. Like I can do Saturday, Friday, Thursday. But for right now, it's just on Saturdays. Just while we get the word out. But he does a great job of he delivers breakfast and has a lot of DoorDash, whatever. He'll put my flyers and everything. He's super
that's
helpful.
awesome. That's
I love
fantastic.
having great partners at venues. It makes my job so much easier.
Yeah, we've talked about that on this podcast before. I mean, we did a whole series about producing shows, and that's like one of the biggest factors in having a successful show is having a good partnership. Because if your venue isn't on board with what you're doing, you're never going to have a good show. No matter how much work you put into it, it'll never be good because they're not supporting it.
Right.
And so, yeah, having that is huge.
Yeah. And even the energy and not even just the people who own the place, the staff. If the staff don't like you, they'll make your life hell.
Yeah. No,
and have an
absolutely.
attitude. And then your energy's bad. And then you open the show that way. And then it's just all bad. It's all energetic.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love my partners that I have, like the Winter Park show. I'm really excited for you to do that one this month.
Yeah,
They're
that'll be exciting.
so
I'm
fun.
actually recording with Adam on Friday. He
Nice.
reached out about doing the podcast. So
that's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, by the time this comes out, it'll be too late. But,
Sure.
but yeah, I'm working with him up in doing the Vale comedy shows too. So,
Yeah.
And then he reached out about doing the podcast. So it'll be a fun week next week. I'm excited.
Heck
for
yeah.
it. But yeah, it's interesting too, like with the promoting and producing shows, especially doing a weekly show. Like it's
a whole different animal. I was so excited because I was doing monthlies, and then I was like, yeah, I'm going to do a weekly. This is going to be so great. Well, I wanted to do a weekly because I love creating opportunities for comedians. Like my whole motto, my whole business, the mission statement is creating joyful experiences, because that's the whole reason I do it. because I have fun when I see other people having fun. Comedians are happy when they're practicing their craft. And so I love them having a good time, seeing the people have a good time. And I was like, a weekly, I got to book even more people. But I'm like, it's so stressful watching those ticket sales every week. And then you start at zero again. And it's like, oh, I have to pay everybody on Saturday.
Yep.
I was like obsessively watching the ticket sales. And it is a whole different kind of anxiety. So I'm like, what have I done?
Wait till, you talk about stress as producing. You're right. It's very stressful for that weekly stuff because you never know if you're going to sell tickets. But wait till, you get closer to your festival.
Oh, God. Don't even. I'm already freaking out. I'm like, especially like signing contracts with bigger, like the headliners. That's more money than I'm used to paying out on my weeklies or even monthlies. And I'm like, I just put a deposit down on that performer and it's real.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's like, is this going to pay off or not?
Or am I going to have to dip into my 401k for a festival? That thought's already crossed my mind. I'm like, Jesus Christ, what have I done? I'm kidding.
No,
I mean, it has crossed my mind.
I think everybody that produces a festival, when they first decide that they're going to do it, they're like, oh, this is going to be awesome. It's going to be fun. We're going to bring a bunch. And then you get into the logistics of what it takes and then, and the financial risk and responsibility. And then I think everybody's had that thought. We're like, ooh, am I going to have to pay out of pocket for this? What's going to happen?
Well, and Winter Park, they're really the ones who I feel like have been manifesting this because since I started that room last January, so I've been doing it for a little over a year now. And like after the first show, they're like, you have to do a festival. And they're trying to get me to do it that summer. And I was just like 6 months into producing. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure. Thank you for saying that. But they were saying it for a whole nother 6 months. And I was like, okay, maybe I will. And then 6 months after that, like I started talking to the chamber, whatever. Everybody was so excited and they're coming at me. And I was like, okay, yeah, you guys want this so bad. You're creating this. I'll help facilitate it.
And that's got to be a huge relief that it isn't just like all on your shoulders, that it's the actual city, the chamber, and the businesses like that.
It's like a bigger scale venue having my back. Yep. I'm like, this is a great partnership. But then now I'm like, hey guys, remember how you wanted me to do this? Can you give me some money, please? Because I am running out of money of my own. Remember how we were talking about this? It's time.
Yeah. If you really want this, we need to have some money here. It takes there needs to be a budget.
Yeah, which I already know. I already submitted with the chamber like back in November, and so. But anyway, and thank you for the feedback on that. I'm still learning. I've never done any of it before. I am updating stuff soon.
No, good. That's great for you. No, I just I try to be helpful, and I'm always worried like some people get offended by things, and it's just like I'm not trying to offend anybody. That's why I always ask, can I give some advice instead of just doing it? But it's funny because I did post a lot of what I shared with you in a group, but that was because I was looking at some other new festivals and there was like nothing. Like it was a Google form, and I'm like, this ain't even a website.
What? Yeah. Is that so? That what did you? Scamity Festival was that? Is that a real festival?
It's going to be a real.
Okay, I thought I read somebody say Scam Festival. I was like, oh dang.
Oh, they did.
Are those out there?
Well, they are.
I didn't even think about that.
That is why there are so many. That's when it comes to comedians wanting to submit to festivals. When festival sites don't have that information, they're more hesitant because there are a lot of comics, especially newer comics that haven't been around. They look at these comedy festivals, especially ones that have submission fees, as money grabs. And unfortunately, there are quite a few that's what they are.
Okay.
They're just trying to make money.
Right.
They're exploiting the talent. They're not really making it worthwhile for the comedians,
sure.
That kind of thing. And so comics get very hesitant about that kind of
sure.
stuff. And rightfully so. I mean, it's easy to forget that we're comics and we're poor, especially
right,
when you're producing, we don't think about that. It's like, oh, we just, take it for, granted that we're doing comedy and
right.
we forget, well, if they're trying to get into all these festivals, festivals are very expensive
Mm-hmm.
from a performer standpoint, especially if you're
Right.
not one of the paid people to be there. You know, 'cause
Right. Yeah.
you end up having to pay the submission fee, and then if you get accepted, pay for your travel, pay for your
Mhm.
lodging, pay for your food, pay for all these different things, and it becomes a big expense. And comics don't have that kind of money, so they got to be kind of careful with
Right.
that. And unfortunately, going back to that, there are a lot of festivals that are very scammy. So it's
Yeah.
like when people see these new festivals pop up and there's like zero information, they
Right.
automatically think,
Yeah.
oh, this is probably a money grab or a scam
Sure.
type of situation.
I'm one of those
But-
people, when I read something online, I immediately think it's me. So I was like, oh my God, am I like, but I did have, I'm like, did I say I don't have a ton of information on there about what you get out of it, but I got a really good response out of local comics because I think just my reputation.
Mhm.
They're like, I know Christine's not trying to screw me.
Oh, yeah.
And I like to throw
absolutely.
parties and I try to take care of comics as best as I can. So hopefully that helped with my submissions right out the gate. But
'Cause you know how to
probably
throw a
people from
party.
out of state are like, who is this person?
Yeah, well,
Wow.
yeah, but again, like I said, when I posted in the group that I posted in, it had nothing to do with your thing. It was just like I looked at another festival, and it was just literally a Google form, and then like a Venmo or a PayPal, and I'm like, this isn't telling me nothing. This isn't even a website.
Send me your money.
Just-
Trust me.
Just give me, yeah. And it isn't like isn't like the Venmo is to a festival. It's to a person. And
Yeah.
that to me is another like kind of a red flag. It's like, how legit you don't even have a legit like entity as a business. You know what I
Right,
mean? Like
yeah,
you're just like
yeah.
so and so's name.
Mhm. Right.
But I see that all the time with festivals, and it's just like whew, it makes it skeptical. And as somebody who produces festivals, if I'm skeptical,
Sure.
I'm sure there's other people that you
Right.
know, even new people get skeptical about that kind of stuff. But yeah, they're fun to put on. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, the Scomedy Fest is going to be a real thing. It's in the early stages of planning, and that was a friend that made a joke because he,
right.
because people make
Yeah.
fun of, he was like, oh, it's right there, Scamity Fest or Scamity Fest, as he said. But yeah, but with that festival, that's something I'm looking at. I'm not doing submissions for that. That's going to be more of a
Just
curated,
curated. Yeah.
curated festival.
Sure.
Yeah, because you know. It's something different. That's more of a passion project for me.
Sure. Yeah. That's fun.
I'm like comedy, ska, two of my favorite things. We're gonna do this in one. So I'm like,
fun.
I don't have. It's very early. No dates, no venue, no nothing yet. It's still very early. I own the rights to it. Pretty much. That's what.
Right.
But that's enough about talking about producing and doing comedy festivals
Yeah.
and all that jazz. This is about bombing. And so
Right.
you got to have a story about a time that you bombed or the show just was terrible. Love to hear it.
Yeah, I have so many. Actually, I had to really think about it because I think I black out. When I'm up there, I'm like, what happened? I get off the stage, I'm like, did you know what happened? What?
That's
But
not, that's the drinking. No. That's the narcolepsy.
Right? Drinking and narcolepsy is such a dangerous mix.
The combination.
Man. So last year I did a Pacific Northwest run, and we had 2 shows in one night. It was 2 wineries back to back. So we had an early show, and it was 3 of us traveling. I was hosting, and so I was helping with setup. I had the first show. The first winery, it was an early show, like 6, and
So
there
it
were
was
probably
2 shows at 2 separate wineries?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
They were
the same
like
night?
30-40 minutes apart too. So it was
Oh,
back to
wow.
back shows, and we were bringing the PA.
And the equipment. Oh man.
That right, and so
That's a lot of stress already.
yeah, it was awful. It really was. And
Yeah.
so we get there, and all of the people that were coming in, which was not very many. I think maybe there were 10 people in the whole thing. So we set up. People start coming in. Nobody was over or under 60. It was all like church. Just got out of church, white hair.
Of course,
Couples.
at a wine.
At a wine bar, yeah.
That
And
checks out.
And I don't even remember what my set was, but sometimes I do this. It's almost like I do it on purpose where I'm like, I don't like you. You are a projection of my grandma who would shame me constantly. And so I'm like, screw you, grandma. And they're like, why is she calling me grandma? I am a person who is coming to a comedy show. But I think, and I don't have a lot of sexy stuff, but I think I did. I was like, you know what? You don't like this? I'm going to talk about this. And then they were just like, we're so like, oh my God. Like I was just
appalled by what you were talking about.
Because I was like, I'm verbally assaulting these people. And then I was like, this feels so bad. And I don't even remember what it's the energy around it and the like disapproval in these old ladies' faces. And it might be bigger than I think it is, but I'm like that's what I always hone in on. And I always see a projection of my grandma in the audience. And I'm like, oh God, she's going to be ashamed of me for what's about to come out of my mouth. And then I get all, my confidence is gone. And at that point, they're like, this person sucks. I don't care what she's going to say. I don't. Next.
Yeah.
So it was crickets the whole time. They didn't clap. They didn't it was just, they didn't laugh. And so at one point I was like, well, if they're not going to laugh, I'm at least going to make them gasp or something. But they were just like going further and further inside of themselves like this. And I'm like,
no.
Oh. And I was like, well, your next comic up, blah, blah, blah. And they didn't even clap. And I was like, bye. Because I had to leave. I had to go straight from there and set up at the next show while they were finishing this show. And then they were going to grab the PA and microphone and then meet me there. And that was the last thing we were going to set up and then go. But I had to do the ticketing at the next show for doors. And so I was like, wow,
So you weren't even really fully hosting that show. You were just kicking it off.
That's right.
Basically piggybacking.
Yeah, I was jumping on a grenade. I guess the next guy bombed also. I don't know about the headliner, but I know the next guy definitely bombed because his stuff was worse than mine.
Oh, wow.
There was actually a show, another winery in Loveland that I did that Can I say naughty stuff on here?
Yeah.
Okay. So I had a joke where, again, I don't have this, like, I was like, I don't suck dick. It's more of a stand there with my mouth open. That's it.
Yeah.
If you're doing more than, like, picture a blow up doll. If you're doing more than that, you're working too hard. That's all the joke. And it's all I said. Like, I didn't, and then I could tell that they were like, wow. But some people, like, half the people laughed, half the people didn't. And I was like, okay, we're going to get off of that. And I have a ton of kid stuff. So I just went to my kid stuff. And the next guy up told a joke about getting banned from a Dave & Buster's for peeing in a little boy's mouth.
Oh my God, that's so gross.
And somebody complained about me on that show for being too raunchy.
Really?
Yeah. I was like, how in the world is it like you could joke about peeing in a little boy's mouth?
Oh, that's
but
so
I'm
nasty.
the raunchy one. Like, I was so pissed off. But anyway, that's fine. I've never told that joke again either. I was so upset about it. I don't like, and I guess if they said she's clever but raunchy, I think I would feel better about it. But just I'm not out there just trying to be gross and in your face. Like I want to be a good writer.
But I think in that situation, it sounds like you just you made a decision that they didn't like you or weren't going to like you.
No, this was a different show.
Oh,
this was a different show that I did where I actually did okay on that show, but one person complained
about
me
joke.
being raunchy. Yeah.
Because of that one joke.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. But that's comedy. It's subjective. You know what I mean? Like, and what you might find not as dirty, some people are going to find it super raunchy.
Right.
You know, that's what's so interesting to me about comedy is how subjective it is. And, you know, you could have, you know, even the super unoffensive joke to somebody, they'll find a reason to be offended by it, you know, and be like, oh, that was the worst joke I've ever heard.
Yeah, I had a cousin who said something like that to me when I was in 6th grade, and I am triggered.
Yeah, exactly. It triggers that one person.
Right.
And that one person is one of them people that will go complain about it. So,
right.
And then you have to hear about it. Which, yeah. But yeah, that sounds, because that's very stressful. I mean, given the situation that you're in where you have to do your set and then rush to another venue.
Right.
For
Do the
another
ticketing
show?
check-in. That's another thing. I have to do the ticketing check-in, like doing all of the producing side of it and then switching to host mode. That's hard anyway. Like, okay, I was just like very technical, whatever. Now I have to be funny.
Mm-hmm.
So that's hard anyway. But then knowing that I have to leave here and go to another place and do it again, I was just like, ugh.
Yeah, that's one of the worst parts about producing. I don't know if you feel this way, but when I'm producing and going to be hosting this show, it's hard to like just go be funny after being, because I'm more worried about, okay, how many people are coming to the show? Do we sell enough tickets? How are we going to do the seating? You know, are all the comics going to be on time? Who am I missing? Like, what is the PA? Everything's working. Everything's in place. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm thinking about 100 different things before the show. Then everything's where it's supposed to be. And it's like, well, now you should go tell your jokes. It's like, well, I haven't had time to even think about my comedy because I've been running around like a madman making sure everything's good to go.
Yeah. And I think even more so when you have a weekly one, because I don't want to say the same. If I have regulars that keep coming back, I don't want to keep saying the same jokes over and over. So I'm trying new stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm hosting. I'm not in a good energy that I can sell it with my energy. I'm stressed.
Yep.
And I'm trying new bits that I don't even know if these are going to work completely. And so then I'm like, well, it's hard. I probably shouldn't do that. That's not a great way to host
just
a
do
show.
new material.
But
do you ever, when you're producing shows like that, especially now that you're doing weekly shows, do you plan on having other people maybe come in and host just to get that break so you can just be like producer and then I'm doing that this Saturday. I have Brad Bellinger hosting my show for me because I'm like I don't want them to get sick of me. Mm-hmm. I get that because it's especially like you said when you have that weekly show. It's so hard, even when you're hosting a weekly open mic,
right?
You know, and if you get people that come back, you know, on a regular basis or whatever, anytime there's a chance that there's going to be the same people at a show, it's you as a comedian, we're like, oh, well, I can't do that,
right?
You know? Like,
and I don't want them to think that if they don't like me, because there's plenty of people out there that just don't like me. Yep. I don't want them not to come back because I'm the host every time. I'm like, don't worry, it's not always. Keep coming back. It's different hosts. Like, so I would prefer to like rotate through hosts for sure.
Yeah, because even Jeff and I. Producing here locally, all our shows are like monthly, and we even run into that where it's like, oh man, we're getting a lot of the same people at all our shows, so it's like, oh, it's hard to like, you know, we want to change it up and do different things or whatever, but it's just so much pressure. But one of the nice things with our situation is there's two of us, so we can switch, we can trade off a little bit.
Yeah,
where it's not just one person struggling with that. Oh, they've seen all my stuff.
I'm going to start getting into characters, I think. I'm just going to start dressing up like somebody. Doing Gallagher in 2 weeks. I'm bringing a watermelon.
Every week you're going to be a new comedian. Going to have a new 10 every week as a different character. Right. That's going to, when you have it all done, that's going to be one hell of a one-person show.
Right.
Just like each week you work on it, and then after like 6 weeks, you have this new hour.
That's right. I might do that.
I'm actually taking
Christy Buckley's one-person show class. That starts this Saturday.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. I've never actually taken a comedy class. I've read books and I've done online research. That's how I got into it. So I'm better in a classroom setting. So I'm really excited.
I think classes are great. I mean, it really depends on who's teaching the class. That's just like,
sure.
Well, because it runs out just like what we were talking about with comedy festivals. You see it even more so with comedy classes, how they're very money grab and scammy. Sure. You know, it'll be like somebody that doesn't know anything about comedy deciding that they're going to do a comedy class.
Kind of like doctors.
Yeah.
Comedians are like doctors. Ever heard that one?
I have not.
No, like you go to you have an ailment, and this doctor's like, well, they've never seen it before, but go to a different doctor, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't trust doctors.
No, I get that.
I don't trust comedians.
You go to a doctor, and they just kind of like guess. They're like, well, it could be this.
They just get on WebMD.
Like, it could be this. Or it could be this.
Right.
You know, it's like, what?
According to your symptoms I typed in here, it's testicular cancer. Like, I am a woman. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, and then
Because you
they'll be
never
like,
know what you're going to get with
well,
a doctor. Because they got,
I'm not exactly sure what you have, but we're going to give you this medication, and if it doesn't work, we'll try something else.
I've actually had a doctor say, it's not an exact science. I was like, I thought it was science, though.
You're
Like,
right.
I thought
What do you mean it's
medicine was
not
science.
exact? Yeah, that's funny. I just went to the doctor today, so I'm.
Are you okay?
Oh yeah. I just finally got insurance back, so I went to established care and do stuff. I'm diabetic too, so I got to do diabetic management. So.
Oh yeah.
So I went to get that all set up. I should have done that a long time ago because I've lived in Colorado for over a year now.
Yeah.
And I just now did it.
So you're not like the insulin dependent kind.
No, I have type 2 diabetes.
Yeah.
So it's
All
just it's manageable.
Sure.
However, I've been doing a terrible job at managing it.
Sure.
My AC1 or my A1C levels were through the roof today. So
what does that mean? Are you? Does that make you like pissy or what? Tired?
No, it just means it could have a couple different effects. I mean, because with my meds, it doesn't really, even when it's high, it doesn't necessarily affect me as much. It's
okay.
just not
You just
good.
you can't even tell until you test it.
Yeah, not really. I mean, unless it's really bad.
Sure.
You know, it could be if my sugars and sugar levels get really high, like I might get blurry vision or like have some other effects.
Sure.
But
my mom's diabetic. She's like the insulin dependent kind, and she's still terrible at managing it. Like I'll be talking to her, and she'll just start like speaking nonsense, like the weirdest combinations of words that don't belong together. And I'm like, Ma,
oh man,
you want to check your blood sugar? And she'll be at like 20. I don't know what that means, but I don't know. But it'll be like some ridiculously low number. Like, Mom, you're about to go into a coma. You might want some orange juice.
Yeah,
like
you need something.
You're not making any. It's like the weirdest thing when her sugar is off.
Yeah,
gets
I'm not that bad,
goofy.
so I'm unfortunate in that way. It's just a matter, for me, it can be more manageable if I did better dieting and exercise. And I try to do a little bit of exercise, but not very well. But what's getting me is I love beer. And that's I know that's why it's my sugars and my carb intake. I love carbs. And particularly last night we went out for dinner. I had spaghetti, I had bread, I had beer, I had all the things that I knew.
Carb loading. Normally you do that like before the gym so you can really get swole, but
before you go have your A1C levels tested. So I was already expecting it was going to be high after last night.
Nice.
After last night, I knew that's what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Now, going back to that story that you told, you kind of knew, you kind of had an idea what happened. Obviously, you were kind of, because you're also working the door and doing all these other things. And then you just made this assumption about the crowd and got angry. Mm-hmm. So you kind of know what happened in that scenario. But when you have a bad set, what do you try to do to like look back and analyze and try to figure out what happened and how you can prevent that?
I think I'm so new because I'm at 2.5 years doing this. And so a year ago, I was 1.5 years in, and I was like, my jokes are, I write every day. I have something in my mind too. I would probably pull off my raunchier jokes if I felt good about them. If I was like, I'm confident that this is funny. I don't care what you think about it, or like if I was confident in it, I could they would work better. But I don't really that's not really what I want. Yeah. So I have a vision for what type of comedian I want to be and what my writing is, and I know I'm not there yet, and I have to keep writing to get there, and it's just part of the process. Mm-hmm. So to me, I'm like, I don't want to tell you guys, like, it's almost a respect thing. Like, I don't want to be disrespectful to my grandma in the front row. She's going to hate hearing this, but it's the jokes that I have. And so now I'm just going to have to get it over with.
Just use it until you have different jokes.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you said that about, you don't feel good about telling these jokes because that's not the kind of comedian that you want to be, because I just had a conversation with my producer for a podcast that came out a few weeks ago. on the podcast, we were talking about clean comedy.
Yeah.
And we talked about that, doing clean versus dirty comedy, and about how if you're not feeling it, the audience can see that.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
they'll and then they're not going to be into it. They can tell
Right.
that you don't have that confidence, or it's just not your character.
Right.
Because we talked about how I got booked on a festival and I got booked for a blues show. Well, I primarily do clean comedy.
Sure.
It's not, you know, I just evolved into a clean comic or
Sure.
whatever. And we were talking about that because I said that was like one of my worst sets because I was trying to be dirty and the audience could see right through it. They're just like, oh yeah,
Right.
you're trying too hard to be
Right.
dirty. And it's like, well, because that's not who I am anymore as a comedian.
Right. Well, no, I do joke really rough, and I like being able to do that. And I'm a boy mom, and so I talk to my kids rough. But it was just kind of it's how we communicate, and not like some people are like, oh my God, how can you talk to or about your kids like that? And I'm like, but that's what our family is, and they're happy, I'm happy, we have a like great relationships. But I will say inappropriate things and think it's very funny. But then if I have an audience member that is just like, oh my God, like shame on you. Like I have this thing where, because I grew up in a very religious whatever, when I get that shame on you feeling, like I need to learn how to just dig into it and not back off. Confidence is so much of it.
Oh, it absolutely is.
I'm like, you're not going to knock me off of what I'm doing because you don't like it. And I have to, like, I'm learning how to figure out a way to handle that.
Yeah. Well, and that definitely takes time because you know, our upbringing and our environments can definitely puts a lot on a person.
Yeah.
And it's easier said than done to just, you know, you can easily say, I'm just going to be that person that says screw it and let it roll off.
Right.
And then actually being able to say screw it and let it
Right.
roll off.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Now, kind of going into your writing process, you talked about how you said you write every day. For you, like, how long do you work on a joke? Like, what's the evolution for a joke from you have an idea to you write it out as a joke or think about how you want to say it, perform it, and then you decide whether it stays in the act or maybe gets
Sure.
put off to the side? And what's your writing process?
Sure. So there's a number of things that I do because I have set time for myself that I write every day, and it's just free writing, journaling, what's going on with me right now. Because a lot of times there's just a lot of thoughts and mess that I have to clear out into a journal.
What time of day do you do? Are you a night person, day, morning person?
It's usually,
or just...
so I get up, I have to get my kids ready for school, get them to school. And ideally I'd like to be able to get up and meditate and then write, but I have kids. And so it's better if I get them out of my hair first.
Yeah.
So I do that, and then generally I will get myself a cup of coffee and I'll sit at the kitchen table and write. So it's usually
in
it's
the
not
morning.
first thing in the morning, but
Yeah,
it's
but
after I
morning.
get all my stuff out of the way. Because then if I do so much and I have so many things going on, if I open my phone or I look at my computer after I get home from the kids, that's it. I'm just going to get on a roll with something, and then my mind's going to be in process mode and not creative thinking mode. So I get the kids out of the way and then I write. But then I also, like, if I'm walking or grocery shopping or doing something mundane, driving, like something will hit me, and then I have notes in my phone that I want to go back to later. So then, like, I'll do my free writing in the morning, and then I'll go back and I'll look at my phone at bits that I was thinking of, and then I'll try to just flesh them out that way. And usually it's the jokes that I really hone in on are the ones, like, there's kind of a muse that hits. Like, there's things that I really, like, this is what I care about right now, so this is what I'm going to spend my time on. And it excites me, and I get, like, some adrenaline about it. And so those are the ones that I
Do
really
you write
work
your
on.
jokes out completely, or do you just kind of write the general
I write
gist?
every single word I
Word for
can
word?
think of. Yeah. It's usually like, I'll be in the bath a lot of times, relaxing, taking a bath, and then something will hit me, and then I'm like, like dry off really fast and ruin my relaxing bath, and I like type every single thing I could think of. And then I'll take it to an open mic, record it, listen to it, tweak it, and then keep going back at it that way. But if it's something that I like, I'm going to keep working on it until it's working the way I want it to, and then I'll put it in. A lot of times, since I've been doing these weeklies, if I have something new, I'll start sandwiching it in the middle of something just because I'm testing it out and trying to get it the way I want it. It might not ever stay in like a regular, like if somebody else books me on a showcase, that's different. than if I'm on my own show.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, no, I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, it's your show. You can do whatever you want.
Right.
You're the producer.
So-
You're the boss.
But then how I decide if it gets on one of those showcases I'm booked on is how well it does while I'm practicing at different places. So
yeah.
pretty much it.
Do you find, because you're producing so much and you're hosting a lot of your shows, that it's easier to develop a joke because you're squishing it in between?
Yeah.
Because as opposed to like if you were to take that joke to an open mic.
Yeah, I think I get more reps in front of real people than just repeating it in front of the same comics.
And when you're working on a joke, what do you look for? I mean, obviously laughter, in the crowd response to a joke, but what do you kind of like? What's your parameter of like how well it was received?
Well, I guess silence. Like if I expected it, like I'm looking at their faces, I'm looking at recognition in what I'm saying. Laughter, obviously, sorry, is the main thing. But if I thought, I'm like, wow, that was funny. You guys didn't even smile about it. I'm so sorry.
You're fine. I can edit all this out.
Gross. Boogies. I've been crying a lot lately, so I'm full of bugs. Ugh. Okay, so laughter. What are we? Or how I say it. So it's not even the words that I say. It's a lot of times it's the timing. And I do talk really fast. I have a habit of talking really fast. And you've even told me to
to slow down.
Let some of the stuff breathe, Christine.
Yeah. Yep.
And so like I'll practice, like there's certain ones where I'm like, no, I think there's something there. This time I'm going to try it, but I'm going to give it a longer pause. Or I'm going to, make this face. Or there's just so many things. There's so many things into just writing. The
Absolutely.
Performance of it is.
Oh, yeah. Delivery, timing.
Yeah, and I'm learning that.
Facial expressions.
And having energy, my volume, if I'm getting excited about it, you're getting excited about it. And I learned that from watching people like Ben Roy and Derek Stroop. Like they get angry or like into it, and that energy is just like, if they were just reciting those words, it would have a completely different effect.
Oh, absolutely.
So I'm I'm into that. My favorite comedian is Robin Williams. He's the one that made me want to be a comedian because I relate with that really spastic energy that's just
until the narcolepsy
very
gets
physical. yeah. Like I'm exhausted.
Go like 100 miles an hour. Just like,
I know. I guess I just need some cocaine. I'm just kidding.
Hey, no judgment. Everybody has their own.
It's my
fuel.
narcolepsy medicine.
It has the opposite effect of sleep. Instead of falling asleep every 5 minutes, I just stay up for 5 days. Oh, that's hilarious. Now, when you're on stage, you tell a joke, or you start to feel that you're losing the audience. You feel like you're about to go into, you're starting to bomb. Mm-hmm. In that moment, what goes through your mind, and how do you try to deviate and turn it around?
So it's interesting because this is something that I have just done, and it's probably not. It's not even something that I've learned in comedy. It's just my personality and how I was raised, and I've always been. I just always want to get a reaction out of people. So I'll just poke and poke and poke. I'm like, oh, you don't like that? What about this? What about this? What about this? And so when I see that they're not liking it, I'll pivot. I like the sexy stuff. Like I said earlier, I can't even say the word without a Y on the end because that's how uncomfortable. Sex. I can't talk about sex. Sexy stuff.
Sexy stuff.
So if I'm uncomfortable, I see you're uncomfortable. I'm like, that's how we make our babies, right? I don't know. I've never said that. Never said that to transition, but I'll pivot to something else, and then. I started doing a lot more crowd work. I've worked with Gretchen Hess on the road last year, and she is one of my very favorite crowd working comedians. And so I will watch her, and there's just certain tricks that she does. And really I'm like, what's the secret to crowd work? And she's like, you just have to do it and suck at it until you don't suck at it.
Yeah, I mean, really,
So-
that's really it. That or you just have to be really good at improv.
Sure, which I am not.
Same. I've taken improv classes, and it has definitely helped me as a comedian and as a performer, but I'm not good at improv.
Yeah.
Like, it gave me more confidence and things like that, but yeah, I'm not good at.
Sure.
I felt like I was always the weakest link within the class.
Yeah, I get such anxiety. Like if I'm not in a setting, like just the word improv, I'm like, oh God, there's an expectation, and I'm never going to be able to meet it. And then I have this anxiety, and I'm like, my creative brain just shuts off. But otherwise, like if I'm just sitting around just bullshitting, it's easy. But not on stage.
Yep.
So I've been practicing that. So that's a lot of what I'll do. If I see that they don't like it, I will try. Sometimes I'll interact with it.
Yeah.
And then I've started calling out like that one horrible bomb. I talked to a lot of people about it. I was like, what do you do when you see your grandma in the audience? They're like, Christine, you go see a therapist.
I'm like, yeah,
Let's
you got
start
some deeper issues. If every time you see an elderly person, you immediately think it's your grandma, you have issues. So whoever gave you that advice might not be wrong.
Right. But also they're like, call it out. Like, just call it out. Like, are you ashamed of me? What are you doing? And then like, so I've tried that where I'm just like, then I go down this whole like this.
Have you
path.
ever like did that where you call it out, but you like you bring up that they're making you uncomfortable because they remind you of your grandma? Where you're just like, I don't know what's going on, but you remind me of my grandma. Now I'm very uncomfortable because my grandma doesn't like me.
Yeah, I've done that. And then I'll keep calling back to it. Like if a joke doesn't work, another thing, I'm like, Grandma, stop judging me. And then that'll work.
Yeah.
So that's something that I've learned to do, to kind of work around that until I'm completely confident that I can make my grandma laugh.
Oh, that's funny. It's just like, it sounds to me like that's your whole goal in comedy. You just want to make your grandma laugh.
I just wanted her to be proud of me, damn it. She's like, get a real job. No,
well,
grandma.
most older people are getting a job. That's because that's what they were raised to believe.
Right.
You have to have a real job.
She's like, how are you going to make money? I mean, people pay me to tell jokes. And she's like, I don't know about that. She's like, but you're not funny. Actually, towards the end, she actually passed away last year. And towards the end, she was like trying to tell me jokes. She's very sarcastic and dry. She's German. So she's very sarcastic and dry. And she would try to tell jokes. And my mom was always very serious. And so my mom's just getting pissed off because she thinks my grandma's just being mean. And my grandma would be like, it was a joke. I'm like, I see what you did there. So towards the end, she started warming up.
She was coming around. Well, that's always good.
She's terrible at jokes, though, by the way. Her jokes were never very funny.
You're like, I'm the comedian. Grandma was not. Maybe that's the issue. You're pissed because your grandma was coming in on your territory. And you're like, I'm the funny one in this family, not you, Grandma. Don't you step on my ground.
It always comes down to jealousy every time.
How dare you? Go find your own hobby. Go play shuffleboard or something. Oh, that's hilarious. Do you set any kind of like short-term, long-term goals? And
Oh, yeah.
what are some of your short-term, long-term goals, and what do you do to try to achieve them? Like, what little steps do you make?
So I told you I have a vision board and a goal board.
Yep.
So I've planned a festival. To have a festival at the end.
I don't have a vision board up anymore, but I do have
Yeah.
my goals on my.
Yeah, mine is one of those whole big, huge whiteboards that takes up almost my whole wall.
wow.
And I'm like, here's me motivating me today. Here's my calendar. Here's
Thanks
my list
for
of.
making my little checklist.
I know. As organized as you are.
You're like, what? That's your
Let me
goal
send
list?
you a picture of my vision board. No, I do. Like, I have my end goal, and I'm like, well, let me break it up into smaller pieces. I have a business degree, and I worked at a C-level at a manufacturing company, and it was a whole, like, wonderful, stuffy job that made me want to kill myself. But
Been there.
so I have things that I've learned to be a successful business person. And so I do that. I break them up into pieces. Like, I want a whole new hour. I want to have a whole new hour at the end of the year. That means I have to write 5 minutes a year or 5 minutes a month.
5 minutes a
And
year.
like
I'll have a new hour 10
I'm
years
not
from
very
now.
good at math.
Remember, I said I had a degree in business. Didn't say how I got it. Stole it from somebody. Doesn't have my name on it, but I have a business degree.
It's just one of these. I just photocopied one of these things that you have on the wall.
Yeah.
And-
My 3 degrees.
Yeah. I just changed the name on it.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, though. I have 3 of them there, and 2 of them are pretty much the same degree. I switched one of my majors, and they sent me 2 of the pretty much the same degree.
Nice.
I went from just a general marketing degree to a marketing with emphasis in design.
Okay.
And I didn't realize by doing that, then I was dual majoring. And so I got just
Oh.
a general marketing degree
Nice.
and the design. And
Heck
they're
yeah.
the same degree. I'm just like, whatever.
Yeah, you should never tell people that.
I know. It's
Just
just
say,
fun-
like,
it's
I work
funny to me,
really
though.
hard.
I
I
did.
work
I
really
worked really
hard.
hard.
Double,
I joke about
double
this.
time.
All the time. When people, I'm like, joking around with people, and I'll be like, well, technically, I have a master's.
You got a freebie.
I have
Just a
I have-
freebie degree.
I have 3 associate's degrees. That's the equivalent of a master's.
That just makes me mad because you paid half the price
And I have
for double the degree.
Yeah, exactly. I got a 2-for-1. That's what
Yeah.
happened. I got a 2-for-1.
Gosh. Student loans. Get outta
I
here.
know, right? Well, it's funny because for me, comedy is what got me to go back to school. I have a degree now in business too, business and marketing.
Yeah.
But it was because of comedy. That's what
Wow.
propelled me. I was like, I want to learn some stuff that can help with comedy.
Oh,
so
that's
that's why I
great.
went for that.
Nice.
Most people quit college to go to do comedy.
Sure.
I'm like, comedy? I got to go back to college.
I quit parenting to pursue comedy.
Well, hey, gotta make them sacrifices.
Listen, they're old enough. I'm kidding.
Oh, that's funny. Now going back to you're talking about your vision board, your goals,
Oh, yeah.
and your steps.
Yeah. So in order to get 5 minutes a month, I have to write this many minutes a day. Like everything I write is not going to be gold. I don't know
Well,
about
yeah.
you, but
Well, I've never written anything but.
so that's what I have. Like I have another goal of I want like a killer 10-minute host set by the festival because I've never even learned really how to host. I just started going up there and I will just like traumatize people. And I'm like, here, comedians, your turn. And they're like, oh, thank God somebody else is up here. That's like my hosting.
Which is not a good, because hosting is like the most important job.
I know. So I really.
It's like
I'm,
setting
like,
the whole,
a
like,
huge goal of mine.
the standard for the host show.
I really need to get better at hosting. I have fun. And the shows that I do are fine. But for Castle Rock, I need to step it up for sure because they don't party like Lakewood and Winter Park do. They're like, you're going to have to be a little more professional. So I'm like, I got to step
it's
it
that
up.
kind of class.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know the areas enough to know like what kind of people are where.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
I'm just like,
So yeah, that's another.
to
what
me,
else
it's
do I
all
have?
Denver.
Huh? Yeah. I have a goal to get a house, get a new car, which I have a new car now, so I already got one of those down. I
Nice.
like whatever I want. It's not even like goals. I don't like calling them goals. It's like, what do I want?
Mhm.
Because then I'm going to get it. If I want something, I'm going to get it. And it's
Yeah.
not, and that's just what my attitude is. I'm a very driven person. I don't know if you could tell that.
Well, yeah. I mean,
I want to
only
do
2
this and I'm
years-
doing it.
little over 2 years into comedy, produce pretty much, you got a club now, produce another weekly show, doing a festival. I'd say, yeah, definitely. Just don't burn yourself out. It's easy to be like gun ho and then just
Yeah.
totally crash.
No, listen, I can't because then I'm going to have to like look into myself. And that's what I'm avoiding by overachieving.
You have
I'm
to
just
figure out
avoiding.
what this issue is with my grandma if I stop.
Yeah. So I cannot stop. It would
Like
be a
right
disaster.
now, I need to keep going so I can berate old ladies everywhere.
Yeah.
That's my goal, to berate old ladies. That
Not
remind
shame
me of
on me,
grandma.
shame on you.
That's right. How dare you remind me of my grandma? Well, this has been fun. We're going to start wrapping up. I always talk about the bad shows, so I like to, at the end, I like to talk about a good show. So far, what has been, it doesn't have to be the best gig you've ever done, but just what's your favorite gig that you've done so far?
Nancy Norton at the Devil's Craft. She headlined the Devil's Craft in Winter Park, and that show was just so. I don't like, for me, I just love connecting with people, creating joyful experiences. When I see the whole room coming together and laughing, and like that show, it can get kind of rowdy because it's, the mountains. Everybody loves drinking in the mountains and they party.
Mm-hmm.
But this show, she had every single person in their seats, and she's just like, all of their attention was on her, and she's just like taking them here, making them laugh. Like, it was just a thing of beauty that, like, that isn't my show. That wasn't like me performing it, but it was just the coolest thing to watch.
So you produced it,
Her,
right?
yeah.
So, I mean, so technically
And
that
like
counts.
afterwards, like, it was so embarrassing because I was so touched and impressed by her performance and what she did with that room. Because these are the same, I see these same people every month, mostly. A lot of them are tourists, but half of them are regulars. And so to see her just like tame them and just take them on this journey, it was just a thing of beauty. I got all emotional at the end, and I was like, I love you and I love comedy. And it was just, it was silly, but it felt the best. That was the best feeling show I've ever had.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's a great win, especially as a producer.
Right.
It's a nice feeling.
Yeah.
The last thing I always we like to do is we have the Art of Bombing Get Pumped playlist. Doesn't have to be a song that gets you pumped for comedy. Just a song that just gets you pumped for whatever activity you might be doing.
Oh man.
What's the song that gets you pumped?
That's a really gosh.
Of all the questions, this is the one that stumps you.
I think maybe I'm embarrassed about what my answer might be right now because I'm on this like girl power
That's fine.
anthem
You'd
kick.
be surprised what's in this playlist. This playlist has a pretty good rate. It's like 8 hours.
It's Lizzo.
Okay.
Lizzo's the artist.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if it's already on, but
what do you have? Do you have Lizzo?
I don't.
already?
I'm just saying.
I'm
I don't
trying to
know off
think
the
of
top of my
name it.
head, but I just feel like this is one that probably
I can't think of the name of it. I'm like, is it Love? Not Love Hurts. What is it called? Why is Love Great? I'm about to sing it to you.
Oh well, hey.
She says I'm 100% that bitch. That's like the thing. I'm like, yeah. What is the song? It's Love Something.
Love Something.
Gosh.
All right, we'll figure. I'll look it up. I'll find it. Love Something. That's the name of the song. Love Something.
I can also find it and send it. It's on my playlist. I've listened to it 6 times today, probably. Already.
Oh, that's amazing. 6 times. Don't know the name of it.
Oh my
on a
gosh.
kick, but every time it came on, I went into narcolepsy.
Yeah. I blacked out.
Well, this has been great. Where can people find you? Direct people to your socials and all the stuff.
Okay, I have a website. It's christylee.com, which is spelled with an I, CHRISTILEIGH. It's such a terrible spelling that nobody knows. Anyway, christylee.com is my website. I have the WP Comedy Festival. WPComedyFestival.com is the Winter Park Comedy Festival that is coming up in June. It's got a submissions page. And
when do submissions close?
The 30th of March.
Oh, so by the time this comes out, they may
It'll
be
be
closed.
done. Oh, okay. So yeah,
Maybe.
forget about that.
They may
But
be
buy
closed.
tickets.
Yeah, come
Come
buy
to the
tickets.
festival. It's fun.
It's gonna be a
and
big
then
party.
so I have a weekly on Tuesday nights in Lakewood. I have a weekly on Saturday nights in Castle Rock
Awesome.
at the BS Comedy Club and Tavern on 26th. And that's
What is BS?
so the breakfast place is called Bistro Social.
Oh,
So I just-
nice. So you just played off that. Okay.
Seemed to work out fine.
Yeah,
And it wasn't taken. I looked up BS Comedy Club and it was not taken, and so I bought it.
Well, it's funny too because it has two like a double. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
BS.
bullshit.
Yeah,
I get it.
Yeah, that's great. No, I know, but I mean the fact that you didn't do it because of that,
Right.
It's great.
Yeah. It worked out really
it worked
nicely.
out really nicely. Oh, this has been
Everybody's
great.
like, "Is this a real comedy club?" I'm like, "Come and find out."
Yeah, you see if we're BSing or not.
Right.
Every Saturday, Castle. All right, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me, Dan. This is fun.
This has been a Dan Bublitz comedy production.